vast, larger than any Dominion battleship. Its hull reflected no scans, as though it refused to exist. But etched faintly across its battered frame were letters in an ancient tongue. The Dominion translators hesitated. Then slowly, the word appeared across every screen. UNS Retribution. Silence gripped the fleet. When Myth stood in the dark, the shadow stirred. Lights flickered across its hull, awakening after an eternity of slumber. Engines burned with an energy the Dominion had never catalogued. The Retribution spoke. Not in the Dominion tongue, not in the refined voice of diplomacy, but in the harsh, guttural syllables of the ancient records. This is human vessel Retribution. Identification confirmed. You are trespassing. The voice rolled like thunder, shaking the bones of every commander. For the first time in generations, the mighty Dominion fleet hesitated. Weapons were armed, but hands trembled. They had mocked the name, they had laughed at the myth, but here, before their eyes, stood the impossible. The warship of a dead species. A species that stories had claimed could never die. The whisper of fear. Panic rippled across comms. Some officers demanded fire, others begged retreat. No one agreed. And then, with terrifying calm, the Retribution moved. It did not maneuver like Dominion ships. It glided, silent, a predator among prey. Its weapons hummed, systems older than the Dominion itself awakening with fury. The first blast was not meant to destroy, it was meant to teach. A single streak of light tore past the Dominion flagship and shattered an asteroid into dust. The silence that followed was worse than any explosion. For in that silence, the fleet understood. Stories can kill. The legends they mocked had teeth. The ghosts they dismissed had claws. The humans were real. And they had returned. The chamber of the Zyran Dominion's High War Council shimmered with pale green light, cascading from vaulted crystal arches that had seen centuries of victories. Inside, generals, admirals, and strategists reclined in confidence, their voices echoing with laughter and disdain. They were not discussing logistics or troop deployments, nor strategies of sieges or rebellions. Instead, they were telling stories, ancient stories. One admiral lifted a taloned hand and sneered, and then the legends say this human ship split a fleet with a single shot. A single ship, impossible, fabrications from primitive archives. The chamber erupted with laughter, claws scraping against the polished stone tables. Another chimed in mockingly, "If these humans truly existed, where are they now? We've mapped the spiral arms, conquered thousands of systems. Not a trace." The notion of humanity, if it had ever been real, had long become a punchline. Every cadet in the academies knew the mockery. Beware the Terran ghosts, or they'll eat your stars. Professors used it as an example of myth-making, proof that fear bred nonsense. To the council, humans were nothing more than phantoms to laugh at. Stories can't kill, stories fade. But sometimes stories wait. Ghosts on the edge of the map. The Dominion's patrol fleet swept the dark edges of the outer spiral, where faint transmissions whispered across the void. Most were debris signals or the fatting pulses of dead civilizations. Yet one signal, persistent, rhythmic, began surfacing across different listening posts. At first, analysts ignored it. Background noise, faulty equipment, but the pattern kept repeating. A long pause, a short burst, then another. It was too deliberate. Fleetmaster Vorin reviewed the recordings with the arrogance of his office. "An old probe," he scoffed, his spined crest twitching dismissively. "Another relic from the forgotten empires." Yet the pattern matched nothing in their databases. It wasn't Dominion code. It wasn't pirate encryption. It wasn't any alien frequency they had cataloged. One archivist, a nervous, brittle-voiced scholar, trembled as she read an obscure entry from the Forbidden Archives. It resembles something the ancients once called Morse, a language of the lost species humans. The chamber fell quiet for half a breath. Then the admirals roared again with amusement. Humans, are we supposed to believe a children's tale is tapping at our borders? Vorin smirked. Stories can't kill archivists. They can only haunt the weak. Still, the Dominion dispatched a fleet, not because they feared, because they wanted to erase the nonsense once and for all. The first shadow. The fleet cruised through the dead stars of the outer spiral. Battle cruisers gleamed under distant suns, their weapons humming, confident in their absolute dominance. The signal grew stronger, louder, clearer. Then silence. It ended as suddenly as it began. Source located, the navigator barked, mandibles clicking in precision. Bearing 331 Mark II, distance less than 1 light hour. The fleet shifted, engines burning white, and then they saw it. A silhouette drifted against the stars. No Dominion signature, no known construct, just a lone vessel, dark and silent, larger than any single Dominion cruiser but smaller than their dreadnoughts. At first the captains laughed. So this is the human warship of legend, a derelict, a husk. Yet their sensors trembled with static as they probed it. Energy readings fluctuated in impossible rhythms. Hull composition defied their scanners, denser than neutronium, layered in ways their science had never seen. Admiral Vorin scoffed again, a relic, nothing more. But the archivist whispered. The story said their ships pretended to sleep, waiting until enemies came close enough. No one in the bridge laughed this time. When legends breathe. The Dominion fleet surrounded the vessel, weapons primed, communications blazing across the void. Demands, warnings, ultimatums. The ship gave no reply. Until it did. A low, steady voice crackled across every channel at once, carrying in perfect translation. A voice that was not alien, not artificial, but human. "You trespass." The single word froze the fleet. Vorin hissed into the comms, "Identify yourself." The voice returned, calm, unhurried. "We are Terran." The word slammed into the hearts of every listener. Terran, the ancient name, the one whispered in myths of fire and fury, of wars no one dared confirm. The Dominion crews sat in silence. Even the hum of engines seemed to hesitate. Vorin, masking fear with arrogance, growled, "Terrans are dead myths, extinct shadows, you cannot exist." The voice carried no anger, no urgency, just finality. Stories can't kill, but we can. The silence before fire. Panic rippled across the Dominion formation. Some captains demanded retreat, others prepared weapons. The council back home, receiving the transmissions, scrambled with disbelief. But before any command solidified, the Terran ship moved. It did not lurch or burn engines. It glided, effortless, rewriting every law of propulsion they knew. One blink it was distant. The next it was inside their formation. Their sensors screamed. Power surges blinded their consoles. Dominion warships scrambled to lock weapons, but targeting failed. Shields collapsed. The Terran ship pulsed once, a flash of light so brief it seemed like a heartbeat. And one Dominion battlecruiser simply vanished. No wreckage, no explosion, just erased from existence as if the void itself had swallowed it whole. The laughter that once mocked humanity was gone. In its place, terror. Admiral Voron's claws dug into his chair, his voice trembling. What are you?" The answer came, soft and cold. "We are the story you thought could not kill." In the shimmering chambers of the Kelthari Conclave, the greatest military council in the Orion Spur, stories of humans were laughed at like children's tales. Generals leaned over their crystalline tables, claws clicking against the holographic star maps as they mocked the very notion of such creatures. "Legends wrapped in dust," one of them sneered, his voice echoing across the marble hall. A primitive race said to have burned themselves out long before their names could even be written in the archives. The cadets